Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're still a little bit early, so we're just going to hang out as people trickle in.
Sarah, you are will be changing slides, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
All right. I just launched a little fun poll to see how everyone's doing while we wait for everyone to join. Okay, it is officially 11:30. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone there is a recording in progress, as we have on our slide here. If you are not comfortable with being part of the recording, please feel free to turn your camera off. We are sharing today's session recording to our YouTube channel, which is public facing. So I'll let everyone kind of decide on that. I am also going to launch a different poll because we love polls. And this one is just to kind of gauge where people are joining from, what kind of content they'd like to see from Lunch and Learn, hosted by K-Hub. So all about trying to understand our registrants better and cater our content fun and pleasurable for everyone. So I will try and launch this poll here. Can somebody confirm that there's a poll pop-up window for? Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right. And should I wait for Amber to join us as well, Sarah?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just texting her right now. I'll tell her to join.
Yeah, no worries. So people that are just joining in now, there's a poll on your window that is from us, K-Hub. We're just trying to understand where our participants are coming from and get some ideas as to what kind of presentations we should be presenting to you next time. So please feel free to fill those out. It is anonymous, and the results are only for our team's viewing, just to make sure that what we're doing is working. Oh. Right.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله
وعليكم السلام
وبركاته.
ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jessica, I see Amber's in the meeting now, but it looks like she is as an attendee. I'm not sure if there is a separate link for presenters.
Yeah, she should have received a separate link through her email. Let me see if I can make her presenter here.
I actually didn't receive any link. I just received the attendee link.
Gotcha. Okay. I just manually made your presenter, Amber. If you can confirm that for me. If you go to people, you should be listed as one of the presenters as opposed to attendees.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect. Okay. People just joining in now, I'll say it again just one more time. We are recording today's session. If you're not comfortable with being in the recording, which does get uploaded to our website and our YouTube channel, please feel free to turn your camera off. And there is a poll that is currently launched where we're essentially asking our attendees where they might be joining from and also what they would like to see for our next Lunch and Learn presentations. It is an anonymous poll, so your results, your responses will not be shared with other people. It's just to make sure that our Lunch and Learns are doing what we're supposed to, and we're giving you the kind of learning that you've been looking for. So yeah. And it's 11:36, so maybe I'll get started, and as people come in, we can welcome them in as well. But welcome everyone to May Lunch and Learn, hosted by the Newcomer Knowledge Hub. Today we have Dr. Amir Jamal, Abdul Al-Shawal, Sarah Abu Ali, and Amber Felt joining from the University of Calgary today. Okay. Excuse me while I try and get the screen control here. Okay. So today we're starting with the land acknowledgement. Immigrant Services Calgary's head office is located on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy and the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta. This includes the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai, the Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. And some housekeeping, as always, when our presenters are speaking, please do mute yourself just to reduce the background noises that we have. If you're new to Lunch and Learn or the Microsoft Teams, here is the button to mute your mic. We are holding this so we can come together and learn together and talk to each other and collaborate with each other. So we definitely do want to hear from you. So if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share, please feel free to use the chat function or the raise your hand. Sometimes we don't have the time to get to your question, but we do have a question and answer time allotted at the end of the presentation. So any questions you might have, if you drop it in the chat, we will get to them at the end. Okay, And as I mentioned earlier, we do have the recording in progress. Our sessions are being recorded and they get uploaded to our website and our YouTube channel. So please do turn your camera off if you don't feel comfortable with that sharing methods. And we have our next June Lunch and Learn coming up on the 24th. We're going to be hearing about a very special pilot program working with Muslim men, talking about mental health, masculinity, fatherhood, and healthy relationships. We're very, very excited to hear about this project, and please make sure to register so you can get reminded using the QR code on the screen. Otherwise, I also am dropping in our chat the webpage link to our registration. And for the months of July and August, we're taking a quick summer break, and we're coming back in September to hear from the ACS Metropolis Institute and their tool called the Canadian Index for Measuring Integration, otherwise known as CIMI. So that will also be updated on the same registration page here. And as I've mentioned like 10 times already, we do have a YouTube channel. It is a new baby, just launched. So if you missed a session and you'd like to come back to hear what it was all about, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all of our past sessions there as well now. As long as the presenters are consenting, they will be shared to our YouTube channel. The QR code is on the screen, and of course, in the chat, we have the link to the YouTube channel as well. Okay. And what we're going to do now is another quick poll to gauge with the room as to if we would like a quick refresher on the Gateway program and the Newcomer Knowledge Hub program. As always, if more than 70% people vote yes, then I will go through the quick intro. Otherwise, we'll move on to today's presentation. So please, if you have a moment, vote on the poll that is launched here. Okay, so we are at 19 responses and only 40% with a yes. So we'll skip the refresher for today. Okay. So without further ado, I want to welcome our presenters today. Dr. Amir Jamal is an associate professor in the Faculty of Social Work at the University of Calgary, where he leads the International Community Development Graduate Program. He's also the Director of Global Engagement in International Partnerships. And with him is Sarah Blally, who has a Bachelor of Arts in English, pursuing a Bachelor of Education in Secondary Education. She's a research assistant at the University of Calgary, working on this very important nationwide study. And of course, Abdul Al-Shawa is also a research assistant through this project and a MD/MSc student in the Cummings School of Medicine. And we're also joined by Amber. My apologies, I don't have your headshot here because I didn't receive them quite yet, but Amber Feld is also here with us today and will be presenting. And I'm going to stop sharing. CMY team, if you would like to share your screen.
Can you guys see my screen?
Super.
Okay, can you still see it? that good? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna assume it's good. Okay, so thank you, Jessica, for that introduction. So we are gonna kind of just get into our presentation, talking about what it means to be a young Muslim in Canada. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just starting off with these traditional Islamic openings / greetings. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. These are just kind of some traditional Islamic greetings. So we already kind of did a bit of introductions, but my name is Sara. I am I technically just graduated from education. Dr. Amir, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, Amir Jamal is my name, and Jessica already introduced me. And just one piece that I'm working as an assistant with all these amazing young researchers. So, yeah, thank you.
And then Abdul and Amber, if you guys want to also introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hello. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdul or Abdul Jawad. I have been working with Dr. Amir Jamal and the rest of the team for the past couple of years. And this area is a passion area of mine for research. So hopefully we can have some great discussions today.
And Amber.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Amber Field. And I'm an undergraduate student at the Faculty of Social Work. I am new to Dr. Jamal's team, so it is a great opportunity and honor to be here, and I hope we have some amazing discussions.
Thank you. Okay, so to kind of start us off, I'm going to play a short video that kind of gives a bit of background and context about our project. I think I have to switch the tabs that I'm sharing now, so I'll just do that. Sorry, I don't usually use Microsoft Teams, so I'm having this is my first time with it. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Okay, I'll mute myself so we can play the video. Arachnophobia, the fear of spiders. Acrophobia, the fear of heights. Ophidiophobia, the fear of snakes. Everyone is afraid of something. But what if you were the very thing that other people feared? What if, because of your beliefs and your faith, people avoided sitting next to you on the train, didn't want to be friends with you at school, or even saw you as less human than themselves? This is the reality for thousands of Muslim youth across Canada who are victims of rising rates of Islamophobia. In 2023 alone, the number of reported Islamophobic and anti-Muslim hate crimes across the country increased by over 1,000%. But what do we do about it? How can we use human connection and community to break this phobia? To answer these questions, Dr. Amir Jamal and a dedicated team of social work researchers, with the help of the Shirk Connection Grant, decided to embark on a mission to develop a national community of practice aimed at supporting the mental health of young Muslims in Canada. The premise of this project was simple. Could we gather a city's academics, policymakers, university students, and local community leaders in the same room who all share a core value of supporting positive youth development to come together in dialogue, connection, and advocacy? The answer was a resounding yes. In our first symposium in Calgary, we had over 120 attendees from across Canada gather to listen to the voices of Muslim youth, their challenges, and how Islamophobia can have a negative impact on their well-being. The symposium shared findings from our research on Islamophobia and mental health impacts and brought together diverse speakers and practitioners from different fields. Most importantly, the symposium had youth at the forefront of it, as organizers, as speakers, and panelists. It was a powerful opportunity for Muslim youth to share their stories, challenges, and visions directly with esteemed speakers, community leaders, and policymakers. But it doesn't end here. Across the next year, we intend to run 2 more symposiums, one based in Vancouver and one in Toronto, to push forward our mission of developing a national community of practice which has Muslim youth, their voices, and their challenges at the center, helping youth become greater versions of themselves and leaders in their own rights. Okay, I'm just going to switch screens again. So that was kind of just a short introduction about like the type of work that we're doing. And it was a bit of an overview of the recent symposium that we ran here in Calgary. And we are planning 2 more, one in Vancouver and one in Toronto in the coming year. So it's been very exciting and very meaningful to be working on this project. Okay, so next I'd want to pass it off to Dr. Amir to kind of give us a bit of an overview of like the background of this project and what it all kind of means to him. So.
Thank you so much, Sarah, Abdul, Amber, Jessica, and Amber, and everyone here for your time listening to these stories. So I won't take much time because I know we all want to listen from Canadian Muslim youth and their voices, right? So I will just share briefly about how we started this project, right? The idea behind it. And we'll briefly share the story behind it, the beginning of the story, right? So I was born and raised in the beautiful city Peshawar, Pakistan. It's on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan. And you see these flowers, it was known as the city of flowers because from Afghanistan, traders will come, from Central Asia, people will come and they will stay here for some time moving forward. So it was a kind of trade route from Central Asia to the rest of the region. So it was a beautiful city. Yeah, we were colonized by British for many, many years. And that colonization has a significant impact on the whole community. But then after colonization, after few years, few decades of peace, when we were developing in our own ways, a new colonization emerged. The Cold War emerged. Soviet invaded on Afghanistan, and I was right there on the border. So we've been through a lot throughout in those times in terms of our identity and our well-being. So when those wars between international powers continued, and we were kind of in the middle of that, kind of proxies. New version of religion was introduced in the region for geopolitical agendas by international actors. And the religion I was practicing as a child, as a young guy, that was nothing but peace and healing, was gone in front of my eyes because it was then being used for other reasons. It's a long story, but this is the background a little bit. Anyway, and the war continued and all those terrible situation in the region, many of us left our beautiful land. The soil, the land, I loved the more. This is my school on the right side, if you are looking at Islamia College, Peshawar. And I loved my school. I loved my land. I did not want to leave. My friends, my family, everyone, the environment, the rainfall on my soil, I still miss it. But I had to leave due to new colonization and continued wars. And I left. And I chose another beautiful land, which is called Canada, as my home, my hometown, as my home country. So I, with my family, moved to Canada. You can change slide, Sarah. So yeah, here we were all together, and my family. You can see my children here, and we were together. I was finishing my PhD in the University of Calgary then. So I will go back to my land, even it was not as safe, but I will miss and I will take my children to my land. And my children going to be getting a lot of love there from grandpa, grandma, aunties, right? All those people would love them. And I remember they would say, we are not going to go back because of all that love they were receiving in their homelands. But they were also Canadian, right? So we will have a trip and they will enjoy that land and also try to contribute something there. So when we will come back to Canada, so they will be saying, okay, who am I, right? So I'll be, as a researcher, as a social scientist, I'll be thinking about these children and many other more. But there was another layer into it. And that was that when we will go in New Brunswick, the American border was close by. Even people will go there for shopping from Fredericton. Sarah is going there, I think, next month. So when I will drive there, so on the border, other people will pass kind of easily, comparatively, and sometimes they will stop us. They will give us special treatment. Sometimes they will, like VIPs, because they will take me inside. They will check our car a few times, right? And they will be asking me questions. Okay, why you are traveling so much? I said, I'm professor, so this is what I do. I go to conferences. And some question which won't make any sense. And my children will be kind of scared and watching what's going on with their dad. And I was thinking what my children are thinking, right? Their mom will be wearing hijab, and when she will be somewhere, so sometimes she will be treated differently. And my children will be asking questions, what's going on here? Right? They were little. So I was thinking how these children being Pashtun from Pakistan and also being Canadian, shining, thriving here while managing all those challenges, being a Muslim child and a Muslim, young Muslim in Canada, what they are going through, how their identities are forming, how their sense of belonging as a Muslim Canadian is in shape, how they are negotiating with their different identities and challenges, right? And what is the impact of all these negotiations and challenges on their well-being? So I said, okay, let's start a project. And let me find out about Muslim youth, their identities, their challenges, their resilience, and their strength, and how they look into their future in Canada. So we started about a few years ago this project. And then I joined an amazing team of young Muslim who got excited and interested. Some of them are here today to share about that journey. So initially I was moving around across Canada, collecting those stories in parks, in Tim Horton, in their homes. And they say, nobody never asked these questions from us. After a few interviews, I start having Phoenix with me because there will be so much emotions. These were qualitative interviews, right? So amazing stories we collected in all those 4 years, which we are sharing into different community events and community reports and publications. So today I think we are sharing just a flavor of that research, of that 4 years research with you all. And thank you again for joining. Next, Sarah. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
oh, sorry about that. I think I might be lagging a little bit, so please tell me if my voice is not clear. But now we come to Canadian Muslim youth. You know, um, the real essence of this project, and Dr. Amir, you know, shared with us the inspiration for all of this research. Now, Canadian Muslim youth, they live a very unique experience within Canada. First off, they live in a global generation. So there is no such thing as just living in sort of one country isolated. We all now live in this global community. But what's unique about Canadian Muslim youth is that they also live in uncertain times. 41% of Canadians believe that there are radicalized individuals in their community. So that's the existence that Canadian Muslim youth grow up with. They grow up with people around them, questioning, are they like us or are they somebody else? Are they the other group? And so these Canadian Muslim youth ultimately live in these multiple worlds where the messaging from one side is you're this kind of a person, and from the other side is you're not. So next slide, please. And we see a rise in Islamophobia within Canada. There's actually in 2023, there's been a 1,300% increase in Islamophobic hate incidents within Canada. And in a survey done in 2020, 60% of Canadians and actually 42% of Muslims believe that Islam and the Western cultures are irreconcilable. So you can imagine that in 2020, over half of Canadians surveyed in this survey, in this poll, believed that not that there were some differences or that there are slight incompatibilities. No, that these differences, that these cultural differences are irreconcilable, right? And so we can see why this rise in Islamophobia has been taking place. And this ultimately led to a report being developed by the Senate of Canada in 2023, which is the ultimate conclusion of that report was that urgent action is needed in Canada. And so this is really where this project fits into the greater political landscape, as well as the educational landscape and the youth development landscape, in that, okay, we have this rise in Islamophobia. What are we going to do about it? So next slide, please.
Okay. So yeah, we kind of, Dr. Mir went over a little bit of the purpose and the inspiration behind this project. So really, what we're seeking to do is to understand the factors that contribute and hinder the development of a meaningful and stable Muslim youth identity in this era that we live in, with different global conflicts going on and this type of surveillance that we just talked about, and suspicion being placed on Muslims in general and how it affects Muslim youth. So we are seeking to explore their identity formation and to kind of think about how does it impact their mental health, how does it impact their relationships with others, with themselves, with their own identities, how are their identities negotiated and transformed within a larger and conflicting political and cultural context. So ultimately, our goal is that we want positive youth development. We want Muslim youth to grow up feeling proud and secure in their identity. And part of that is just kind of hearing their stories and hearing from them what supports they need and what would help them. Okay. So there are kind of three phases to this project. So the first phase was the narrative environment of Canadian Muslim identity. So this was a discourse analysis. The second phase was qualitative interviews and focus groups with youth themselves. So this was done across Canada. This was done in Calgary, Toronto, and Vancouver. And then the third phase is qualitative interviews and focus groups with the general Muslim community. So we try to involve, as well as Muslim youth themselves, we also try to involve the general community, because we recognize that Muslim youth need that community to sort of back them up and to help them thrive. So it's important that we are dealing with both. Oh, okay, so some of the findings from this project, some factors that impact identity formation for Muslim youth. So the first thing was that we found that Muslim youth have multiple complex and hybrid identities. So what that means is Muslim youth are often left with some confusion about who they are, what their identity is. Are they Muslim? Are they Canadian? Are they whatever their ethnic background is? So that was a theme that was prevalent in a lot of the focus groups. The second thing is religious identity and spirituality, and the importance of the importance that it plays in the building of the identity of Muslim youth. So we found that religion played a big role, and that Muslim youth did not want to get rid of their religion. They were actually very proud of it. The third thing is media portrayal of Muslims. Of course, growing up with negative portrayals of yourself all the time can take a toll on a person, especially a youth who is just, forming their identity still. So negative media portrayal had a really negative impact on their identity formation. The fourth thing is claiming inclusion and belonging. So we found that Muslim youth want to be included as Canadians. They don't want to be, considered as like separate or not Canadian, or, they're kind of just their own group. They want to be included and they want to feel belonging with their Canadian peers. And the final thing is the experiences of intersecting identities, so most specifically gender. So we found that the experiences of Muslim women, particularly Muslim women who are wearing the hijab, was different than the experiences of Muslim men, for example, and we'll talk about that more later on. So multiple, complex, and hybrid identities. So this was kind of the first theme. So we found that Muslim youth expressed internalized conflict of often clashing identities. So like I mentioned, their ethnic identities, they have so many different identities. So there's the religious, the ethnic, the Canadian, but we found that ethnic identities are sort of blending into a broader Canadian landscape, while their Islamic identities are growing stronger. We also found that they tend to go through periods of disconnecting and then reconnecting with their Islamic identities while they're growing up in Canada, and that they struggle with code-shifting, as we call it, where, at school they're one person, they switch their identity, and then at home they're a different person because they're with their family, they're with their people of similar background, people of similar religion, cultures, etc. So that's kind of a struggle that they go through while growing up, and it just shows how complex their identities are. All of this ultimately leads to them wondering the question, who am I, right? As many youth do, but then when you add all these layers, it becomes even more complex, and this can ultimately cause anxiety and mental health issues. So inclusion and belonging. So again, we found that Muslim youth often feel a sense of otherness, right? So they feel like they are excluded. They are, kind of just the other in Canadian society, but they are proud Canadians and they want to be part of Canadian society, but they're always being asked questions like, where are you from? In a very degrading context. This was a quote from one of the participants. And of course, this is an experience that like many immigrants and children of immigrants go through as well. So it's just another thing that adds that layer of complexity to Muslim youth identity. They also feel that they have to defend themselves all the time. So defending their beliefs, anytime they see something on the news, they're kind of just in a state of defense. Like they are like, oh no, well, it wasn't us. We're not like those people, we don't believe in this, right? And so that causes a state of unease. And you can imagine it's very anxiety ridden, like having to constantly defend your existence, right? And yeah, that causes them to be anxious, unease all the time. We also found that there is a heightened discrimination of those who are visibly Muslim who are wearing the hijab, for example. And so this is kind of just a bit of a personal example from, that kind of fits into the themes that I just shared. So this was something that happened to me when I was doing my first degree in university. And so I was sitting in a classroom where I was the only hijabi woman, the only Muslim woman at all. And my professor started talking about a trip that she took to Yemen. And she said that the women there weren't allowed to wear normal clothes. They all wore skirts and headscarves. And I was sitting there wearing a skirt and a headscarf. And it really made me feel that sense of othering where I'm like, well, am I considered not normal to you now? Like, am I considered, not Canadian enough? Am I considered like something completely different? Is that how I'm being perceived by the people around me? And so that was a moment where I had to really sit back and reflect and think like, how do these people perceive me? Like, do they really perceive me as different than them? Because for me, I don't think of myself as any less Canadian than they are. So it was a bit of a shocker to me. And that's kind of just just like a snippet of the types of things that Muslim youth go through growing up and on a daily basis.
I'd like to share another story now as well. This is from one of the participants in our study. And actually, this participant, I knew them in high school. We went to high school together. And I remember one day it was between our classes. There's a short break between the classes. And I'm standing in the hall, and my friend comes up to me and he's angry. You can see the anger on his face, and he says, I was just in social studies class, and you won't believe what just happened. And what they did in social studies class is that they had a class debate, and this is a common thing in social studies class. We'll have these class debates. They pose a topic, and then the teacher splits up the class in half. Half the class goes to one side of the room, the other half of the class goes to the other side of the room, and you have a debate about this topic that the teacher chose. And he said they had this class debate, but the topic that the teacher wrote on the board was the following question. It was, is marriage in Islam backwards? That was the question. That's how it was posed. And to make matters worse, the teacher actually, knowing that he was Muslim, put him on the side of the class to debate that marriage in Islam actually is backwards. So, he was infuriated. He refused to participate in this debate. But this is an example of, classroom isolation. I can't imagine what he must have felt in that moment. He was angry, he was frustrated. And this is an experience that Muslims have in classrooms all the time, whether intentional or not intentional. I don't know if that teacher intentionally wanted to create a hostile classroom environment, but ultimately that's what the teacher made. Next slide, please. And so another issue is sort of mentioned. One of the main findings of the study was the topic of global conflict and how global conflict impacts Canadian Muslim youth, their experience, how they grow up. One of the unique experiences that Canadian Muslim youth have is constantly being seen as a sort of insider threat. When we look at reports following a post 9/11 world of heightened surveillance of Canadian Muslim youth, one of the things that was found is that a lot of Muslims, Canadian Muslim youth, they stopped involving themselves within their communities because they believed that if they spent too much time volunteering or too much time at the mosque or whatever, that they would be surveilled, that they would be watched more closely, and they did not want that sort of insider threat label being placed on them. Global conflicts also polarizes Canadian Muslim youth, creating a sort of us and them. We see this heightened in recent years, especially with conflicts in Palestine and Sudan, in Syria, where you see these Canadian Muslim youth now being truly called a different group. We see this on campuses all the time with Canadian Muslim youth, particularly Muslim women being targeted on campuses. Just on the University of Calgary campus, there's an increased number of Islamophobic incidences being reported. And lastly, and something that a lot of people, I think, don't realize when it comes to the topic of global conflict is that Canadian Muslim youth end up in this weird middle zone where they see these tensions, they see these conflicts happening in their home countries, where their home countries are being destroyed. Maybe their families are being killed, maybe their land is being taken. And at the same time, living in Canada, they're being labeled as suspect. And so they don't even have the opportunity to grieve in the way that they need to with the conflicts that are happening back home because they're actually being told that, well, they're the ones that are at fault here. Next slide, please. And now we move on to media portrayals. So something that many of us know is that there is a radicalization, extremism, and other structural violences linked to Muslims in the West, right? Particularly in the way that they're being portrayed in the media. One unique thing that Canadian Muslim youth have to go through is a burden of apology, that when something bad happens on the news, there's an expectation to apologize for that bad act happening. This is something that no other groups have to go through. No other youth have to apologize for things that are completely unrelated to them, that they have no affiliation with, that don't represent them in any kind of meaningful way. Yet, Muslim youth, they have to say that. When something bad happens, they have to say, no, 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 that's not us. You know, we're totally not like that. We apologize and all of these things. And there's also an increased sense of suspicion, like I mentioned, that ultimately limits community-based involvement and advocacy. They feel that they shouldn't speak up and stand up for themselves because they want to remain under the radar. And finally, what this ultimately ends up in is a phenomenon known as reactive identities. So this suspicion, inclusion, and misunderstanding that Canadian Muslim youth face ultimately leads them to have this reactive identity where they will begin to become more closed off, right? That Muslim groups and groups of Canadian Muslim youth will begin to identify within themselves and stay closer knit together and ultimately not want to engage with the greater Canadian public. And ultimately, this will just continue propagating the issues of isolation that Canadian Muslim youth face.
So, regarding gender, policies and media depict Muslim women as faceless and powerless, while the media and politics portray Muslim men as a struggle to resist the trope of the violent Muslim man filled with rage, while Muslim women struggle to resist the trope of the oppressed Muslim woman. It's portraying both genders as this and this, and it's a very negative portrayal. Next slide, please. So there is a thing called gendered Islamophobia. So Islamophobia is experienced very differently between men and women because of the gendered stereotypes and societal expectations. So research actually found that based in field work with Muslim communities, that Islamophobia is gendered, not because of its effects on women, but because of its underlying racial ideology that constructs Muslim women as passive than the other side of it, of the violent Muslim masculinity. The Western liberal discourses that claim that liberation of all women and it's their duty to save Muslim women, to liberate them. and the white feminism that upholds that image and that moral ground of the savior image, which ignores Muslim women's agency and politics and their view on what liberation and feminism actually is. Next slide, please. So the hijab in context, Muslim youth experienced a gendered journey of identity development in Western contexts, which means every Muslim has their own unique experiences. The hijab marks a clear marker of Islamic identity, often making hijabi women the main targets of Islamophobic sentiments. And the misconceptions of hijab paint a symbol of oppression and restriction, and not that empowerment and pride that Muslim women actually take in wearing it. Next slide. So something I didn't mention when I introduced myself was I am actually a Muslim convert. And I found that this quote by an undergraduate, a female participant from Calgary, she said, "The hijab makes me feel empowered and in control. I control who sees me and how I represent myself and how I act. It's to seek the pleasure of God and no one else." And I found that this really resonated with me because that's exactly how I see the hijab for myself. I have been a convert for 9 years now, so almost a decade, and I have seen both sides of being kind of in that middle. So I come from a family of Norwegian Canadians, but I also come from part of a family that is Palestinian Muslim. And I'm stuck in that middle of, it's that us versus them mentality of, well, I'm not really Canadian anymore, but I'm not really fully Muslim. I'm still a Western woman. And it kind of makes me sit here and think of myself as, yeah, who am I? What side am I actually on? Because I'm very proud of my Norwegian heritage, but I'm also very proud of my religion. And I don't think that the hijab changed who I was, but it had empowered me to show who I really was. And I think a lot of Muslim youth kind of need to look within themselves, like deeply, and see how Islam and their Canadian identity empower them.
Thank you, Amber. So yeah, it's always nice to hear from the experiences of Muslim youth themselves, because you can kind of talk about all the statistics and everything and the themes that we found in the research, and all that is very valuable, but hearing the personal stories and the lived experiences really changes it up for me personally. But despite all of this, we talked a lot about sort of like some negative, like the challenges, the negative things that Muslim youth are going through. But despite all of this, we found that this generation of Muslim youth are actually very optimistic, and they don't like to focus too much on, the bad that is out there in the world. Like, of course, there is Islamophobia, there is discrimination, and we have to fight against it. But we found that Muslim youth actually choose to kind of look forward and be hopeful. And that is sort of a testimony to their resilience. So they see themselves as beyond just a single story of oppressed Muslim women and aggressive Muslim men amongst a civilized Western world. And they actually see themselves as very proud to be Canadian. So they don't want to go away from their Canadian identity. And actually 83% of Canadian Muslims are very proud to be Canadian, which is 10% higher than their non-Muslim counterparts. And this attitude is more prominent in younger Muslims, according to an Environics survey from 2016. So I found that very interesting, because Muslims are always being sort of othered as, like, not really Canadian enough, but they see themselves as Canadian more than non-Muslim Canadians see themselves as Canadian, which is very interesting. Overall, they see Canada as their home, and they look to build a better future for Muslims within a Canadian context. So long story short, they don't see themselves going anywhere. and they see this country as a home that they can have for their future children and for the next generations of Muslims to come. We also see that there is a trend of youth leadership. So there's a trend of youth stepping up in their own communities, stepping up in their school, in university settings. And this is a quote from a participant in Calgary, where he said, in the Muslim community, there's a lot of good and bad. But when I look around, there are a lot of people who are trying to build the community up. They are giving more responsibility to the youth and letting us lead programs. So this is kind of in reference to them working with the Muslim community, where Muslim youth are happy that they are being given these leadership roles and they are given these opportunities to do good in their community and to, help empower the Muslims around them. So lastly, resilience and hope. Muslim youth are resilient and very bright. Despite their struggles, they express a sentiment of hope and they are forward-looking. They are involved in proactive collaborations, advocacy, and outreach, and they recommend that these are the best. And these are recommendations for policies and culturally relevant practice models. So working collaboratively, advocating for them, reaching out to different communities, reaching out to their communities. These are all ways that we can kind of use these as outlets to support Muslim youth and to support their positive identity formation. And lastly, there is a website for the project. If you are interested in hearing more, it's cmyproject.com. It is a little bit under construction. We're still updating it, but there is a good amount of information there and resources that can help you learn more if that's what you're interested in. And I have no further slides. Does anyone else from the presenters have anything to add? Okay. Well, that's it from us for today. Thank you guys for listening. And if you are interested in staying in touch, here are all of our emails. You can reach out at any time. You can take a look at our website. We have more information posted there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah and the team. We've got lots of applause coming in from the audience. I would like to transition us over to a question and answer time. If anyone has anything, please feel free to raise your hand now or drop it in the chat or the Q&A function. I did see somebody just put their hand up, but I wonder if that was an accident. Okay, yeah, 52. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the presentation. And thank you for the hard work. I'm a Muslim Canadian as well, and I feel like I resonated with a lot that you guys shared today, in my experience growing up as well. And I'm in my role right now is one of the Canadian, one of our high schools here in Calgary, and I'm talking to a lot of Muslim youth, and they've kind of shared the same experience here with teachers and in the classroom and that sort of thing. And it's kind of sad that, all these years, from my high school experience to now with these youth, that it's the same, they're experiencing the same thing. I also had another unfortunate experience with the Calgary police. They have some kind of diversity training where they talk about Muslim women. It just touched on that gendered aspect that you guys talked about, and I wonder if you guys kind of reach out to different institutions like the police and stuff and see if you guys can work with them to work on their diversity trainings. And same within schools like CBE or whatever city schools.
Yeah, I can thank you so much for this valuable question. And yes, it's so important that you are basically talking about research connection to policy and practice, right? that, and this is a practice, this is a field research. So of course, the ultimate goal is to bring changes in policies and to improve policies at various levels. And police is one important, basically, department there. So definitely, we have already developed a community of practice, and we have developed a community report, and we are in that stage now for knowledge dissemination and reaching out to different stakeholders, in which police is one of the key stakeholder in that sense. So police training and all those are basically that is one of the target that we'll be going to and sharing what we found. So yeah, so thank you for again. This is an important piece, and we'll be working on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Jamal. We'll wait for more questions to trickle in. There's lots of appreciation and love in the chat for the wonderful presentation. And yeah. Adanek, you sent in a comment in the chat. Would you like to speak on that at all with the presenters? If you're still here.
Oh, hi everyone. Thank you for giving me this chance. I work with newcomers, refugees, and immigrants, and I witnessed that as like personally as a Black person, but not Muslim. I work with so many Black Muslim, and challenges kind of like tenfold than the other Muslims. So maybe it would be great if they kind of like put in the research like this comparison. It really shows the struggle. And thank you for the great presentation.
Again, very important question, and very important about what you are talking about is basically those intersectionalities, right? Intersectionality among Muslim youth. And then there are multiple layers of oppression and racism they are facing, being a black person and a Muslim, right? And from those marginalized groups. So there are different layers of oppression, different context of oppression, right? So we need to look into in that lens as well. And currently, in this project to some extent, but fully, my other student Sabina, a PhD student, she's working on the Muslim women experience, right? And she has this intersectionality, a key piece in her research. So we are moving forward with this important context as well. Yeah, thank you.
I would also like to add that it was a wonderful presentation. Agree with everyone in the chat. Sounds like this project was not only informative, but was healing for both the researchers and the participants as well. From Dr. Jamal talking about bringing a box of Kleenex to Amber relating to some of the respondents there or the interviewees. So what a wonderful project. I wonder, knowing that a lot of our attendees are practitioners working with Muslim youth and otherwise, are there any recommendations you might have for the practitioners working with people who might be experiencing discrimination? Are there resources? Yeah.
Anyone in the group? Sarah, Abdul, Amber, do you have any recommendation? Then I will jump in.
Something that I think is really important, from a practitioner perspective, is have a really good understanding of the full story that Muslim youth is coming into the picture with. So we talked about such a diversity of experiences that these Muslim youth are going to be facing. Some Muslim youth, their experience with Islamophobia is totally different than other Muslim youth. So I think it's important, from a practitioner when you're working, especially on a one-on-one basis, to understand that person's full story and then cater your approach to their story. Some youth we spoke with who maybe have experienced more Islamophobia, they're more hesitant, right? They're more hesitant. They need certain supports in different aspects versus other youth. They want to be on the front line. They want to lead initiatives. They want to be given more responsibility. And so I think that's something that's very important when it comes to working with these youth.
Yeah, I would second that and add on from a teacher perspective, for example, like that's, school is where these kids are spending most of their time, and that's where most of their identity formation is taking place. So for me, like from a teacher's perspective, it's kind of like know your students and know the background that they're coming from, especially like if they're immigrants, if they're children of immigrants, right? Like know, understand, like, and show a real genuine interest in their culture, in their religious practices, and ask them. The biggest thing is, I think, is just ask them how you can support. Ask them if you have any questions, if you need clarification on anything. I think a lot of times people get afraid to ask questions because they don't want to be perceived as like Islamophobic or like that they're discriminating. So they kind of just stay silent and they won't really say anything, even though they're always wondering. So for me, I think the best thing you could do is just ask a Muslim. And honestly, like I've never met a Muslim who doesn't want to answer questions or like clarifications about their faith. So we love when people come and ask questions. So that's kind of my recommendations.
I'll just jump in and build off of that as well. I completely agree with Sarah. It's as a Muslim convert, I completely agree. Ask questions. From a social work point of view, ask questions. We're practically an open book, as I like to say. I like to tell people no question is a dumb question, and don't be worried to be perceived as ignorant or Islamophobic. Just ask, because that is a great learning opportunity for everyone. And from a social work point of view, you're walking alongside them in their journey. So you need to tailor your approaches, whatever profession you're in, to walk beside them. You need to let them take the lead in their journeys, and you're there to help them, to be beside them, not there taking the lead. I did a research project in one of my courses on unconscious biases, and I think that is one of the best ways to defeat that, is letting your client, in whatever profession it is, to take the lead in their experience, because then you're learning and you're tailoring your approach.
Amber, can you unmute yourself? You are somehow, we can't hear you now.
Oh, I'm done.
Good. Yeah, okay, good now. Just the last sentence you said we didn't.
Oh, okay. I just said I think that is the best way to tailor your approach, is to walk along beside your client and let them take the lead, because it's a great learning opportunity for you, and it builds that trust in that professional client relationship, because then they trust you with their experience.
So that's why I always say that I am their assistant. So I am assistant of my research team, because they always inspire me. Yeah, so not much to add here in this time. Just asking question, yes. Then for any practitioner, the trust is critical. Trustworthy relationship is critical. Asking and just listening, right? Listening deeply, listening attentively, listening with respect, listening without labeling, listening without focusing on responding immediately, right? That is they have a lot to share. So just little time to listen to them. And this is we are shared. We belong to a shared humanity. We are human beings first. Then we are everything else, right? So we were born as human. So we are human being first. So there is a lot of similarities, but we have different context, right? So with that kind of relationship, human to human relationship of trust and love and care and healing is so important, right? So that's why there are many good being a Canadian. So in that kind of relationship, we can look into taking care of all those pains that many of us are going through.
Yeah, these are really important advice and guidance for practitioners. Thank you all. The point on approaching with curiosity as opposed to assumptions, I think, is a really important one, especially because you all have shared how unchecked assumptions can turn into microaggressions or other racist acts that can severely harm people. I see in the chat, Salah Hildine asked to ask a question in Arabic.
We'll do our best. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can respond in Arabic, but sure.
شكرا. سؤالي فقط بيتحدث عن المستويات يعني للابيوز اللي ممكن تحصل، او هل كل ما واحد يكون متداخل اكثر مع المجتمع الكندي بيلقى يعني الحاجات اللي تحصل عليه هو كمسلم او مسلمه، ولا هل لما يكون بعيد بتكون اقل؟ انا مثلا الان عندي تقريبا سنه ونص الان، فما تدخلت كثيرا مع المجتمع الكندي، ما حصل درست لكن اشتغل. ففي شغلي يعني التحاور ما كثير، هو فقط يعني في الشغل. فعايز اعرف المستويات المتداخله في المستوى العنف اللي بيحصل للمسلمين، ان كانوا رجال او نساء، وهل افضل انه الواحد يتداخل اكثر بحيث انه يكون له يعني تاثير كويس للمسلمين، ولا هل البعد يكون افضل؟ فعايز اعرف ايش افضل تدخل يعني.
بارك الله فيك. صلاح الدين، ممكن أرد في الإنجليزي ولا
نعم
بتفهمني؟
ايوه
Okay.
نعم.
So Salah Din, his question, which I'll just kind of generally translate for everyone. He was asking around, um, these sorts of Islamophobia and this sort of aggression that Canadian Muslim youth face. Is this something that increases with more engagement or sort of time in Canada? He said that, he hasn't been in Canada for so long, and he hasn't seen too much of these experiences, and so he was wondering, should we become more engaged with the public? Is this something that's more unique? And to answer his question briefly, I think definitely growing up in Canada is a very different experience that Canadian Muslim youth face as opposed to Canadian Muslims who newly arrived to Canada. One of the reasons for that is that growing up, you know, you don't know yourself too well. You don't understand who you are even to begin with. And so, when you're in elementary school, junior high school, you just want to be like everybody else. And so, those experiences of maybe Islamophobia, aggressions, microaggressions, those are exemplified. They impact you more psychologically and socially. And so, uh, that's what I would respond to the question. I don't know if that quite answers what you were trying to get at, Salahuddin.
نعم نعم. زيادة عليه، هل أفضل إنه يكون في تدخل أكثر عشان يكون في حل المشكلة، ولا مش ضروري؟ إيش أحسن؟ يعني أنا الآن هل إذا كنت متداخل أكثر مع المجتمع الكندي هل حيكون لهم إحساس أكثر قربا على المسلمين، وهذا حيكون له أثر إيجابي، ولا
Yeah.
أكون بعيد؟
Yeah, so his follow-up was around, so, as Canadian Muslims, should we get more involved with the Canadian public, right? And if we become more integrated and involved, will that help with these challenges and these issues? And I think definitely 100% it's important for us to increase our engagement. And I don't know if any of the other speakers have additional comments.
Yeah, I would just say quickly, it's a very important question, and Abdul has responded beautifully. Yes, I always said that Canada is our home, our beautiful home. It's very dear to our heart, right? And this is our future of our generations. So when I say that when we are here, so while we enjoy the pleasure of being Canadian, we should also look into the pains of Canada. And as Muslims, contribute to relieve those pains. And one of those pains is colonization and racism. So it's our collective responsibility. The different levels of colonization and racism and oppression with all communities, indigenous communities, anti-Black racism and anti-Asian racism and all those different oppressions. We, all of us together make Canada more beautiful, right? And taking care of all those pains that Canada as a country, these are pains. These are pains. Racism is pain, right? So we need to also put our own healing in our own ways, those healing mechanisms, and take part in all those social justice initiatives across transcending our identity boundaries of identities and work for social justice for all to make it a better place, a better world for all. Yeah.
Yeah. I would add on to that also, just like maybe from a bit of a religious perspective. The way I see it is, Canada is like a land that God has created and it's for everyone. So, we shouldn't think of ourselves as like, oh, I just belong to back home. And then this is just like like it's like a temporary place for me. Like, no, I think it's actually more beneficial when we are going out and dealing with people of different races, different religions, different backgrounds. And it helps us in the long run because people will begin to understand who we are. If we are not integrating with them or not choosing not to mix with them, or to kind of like stay within our own little circles, like that sort of is going to cause more isolation, if that makes sense, and cause more problems down the line for Muslim youth, I think.
I'd like to add on to that as well, that by integrating with everyone, we can learn something from everyone, no matter what background they're from, their culture, their religion. We can always learn something and take away something from everyone. So just even like, I'm from a very rural community, I'm not from an urban community. So integrating and getting to know the indigenous people here and getting to know their culture and their traditions, I'm always taking something away from it and applying it even to myself, to others, to my practice, to make it more inclusive for everyone. Because I think no matter what background or culture or ethnic group you come from, whatever language or religion, you can always learn something so beneficial and so helpful. And that's the beauty of Canada, is it's so multicultural, it's so diverse, it's so inclusive. And I think as not only as a Canadian, but as people coming to Canada, we should embrace that and be like included all together, be one big community.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes left here and a couple more questions in the chat. Uhela would like to ask if awareness presentation for the same topic could be provided for the youth themselves, as it could help them in different situations.
Yeah, yes, we do that, and please let us know if there is any such kind of event. If you are interested, if you can identify. Beside that, we organize youth conferences. Yeah, next months I'm going to, and we'll be going to youth conference, and we were in Vancouver. So in different youth events, we do that. We try to do that. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, checking out the CMY project website, where I believe you update those conference informations, would be valuable. And then one other question in the chat from Wissam. Any advice would you offer to newcomer families on how they can support the identity, sense of belonging, and overall well-being of Muslim youth as they adapt to life in Canada?
Yeah, this is a big question, right? It needs a full-fledged session, like that. All those strategies and to adopt. I would suggest that, as we discussed earlier, right, connection with larger Canadian communities and connection with Muslim communities, right, with Muslim youth organizations, with Muslim. There are various organizations and associations, and they have ongoing different seminars and workshops around that. And beside workshops and all that connection with the community is critical. Uh, it makes all those. And I will also suggest that we do have some resources, some community report on our website, so you can also download that as well. So it also has something that you can get from it.
Abdul, did you have any other comments as well? I saw that you.
No, I was going to repeat what Dr. Amir eloquently put.
All right. Yeah, that was all of the questions. We got to them all in time. With 9 minutes to spare, I want to say on behalf of everyone in attendance, thank you to Dr. Jamal, Sarah, Abdul, and Amber for the wonderful presentation today and the very thorough question and answer session for us. Everyone check out the CMY project website, and stay tuned for the recording to be uploaded on the YouTube as well. And we'll have a following blog post for anyone who's missed the session, because I know lots of people signed up but couldn't make the time. So yeah, thank you everyone, and I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much, Jessica. You did so well, organize it and coordinate the whole thing from your emails to now. Very well done.
It's very
Very well
kind.
done.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for this time. Time is precious, and you give this time to us. So we are really grateful for that. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, Abdul, Amber. Great work. So proud of you all. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye,
Assalamu
everyone.
alaikum.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.